I don't know how you found us, but I'm glad you did. It's the If It's Sports Podcast, episode number 14. All right, this is Josh. I got my main man, Trav. Getting ready for a lovely Thanksgiving weekend here. Trav, you ready to eat some turkey this week?
Oh, yeah, I'm ready. Some deep fried turkey going on.
Uh-oh, they deep frying one for you this week?
Yeah, we're deep frying. Deep fried turkey heaven.
Okay, I think I'm going to throw one on the smoker. We'll see how that goes. It's about the only week of the year that I eat turkey. I get so stuffed on it this week, I don't want anything else to do with turkey. But the great thing about Thanksgiving week is we have some great matchups in the NFL on Thursday. We've got rivalry week in college football. You know, lots of good
Big
action.
week.
So let's go ahead and get on into some college football.
All right, Josh, college football week 12, just a quick recap, just going over some games from this previous week. Starting off with number one Alabama, they took on Mercer.
They shouldn't have been challenged in this game, and they weren't. Just a cupcake matchup for them, getting ready for their big game against Auburn.
Definitely, and we also had number two Clemson taking on the Citadel.
Just another tune-up for them, an over-glorified scrimmage that they're going to take on the Citadel. They took care of them, no problem at all. But now a game for number 3 ranked Miami. They did have a little bit of a scare there in the first half from UVA.
They did. They did come out in the second half and kind of start to pull away. So had a little help from the defense again. Defense had that turnover chain and rotation again. I think they had a pick six.
Yeah, that's kind of turned the game right there on that pick six. They came back and scored the last 30 points of the game unanswered. So, I mean, that was a big win for them over Virginia.
Big win. Definitely needed that. I think Rozier threw for 3 touchdowns and ran for 1. Extended the nation's longest win streak. Took their win streak to 15 games.
Yeah, QB position, he's playing really well right now. Another QB that he got a little fired up there at the start of the game against Kansas when they wouldn't shake his hand. But Baker Mayfield, he didn't have any trouble there with Oklahoma taking care of Kansas.
No, he just used that as motivation as he went into that game and just put it on Kansas 41-3. So
that's got them in good position there to be in the Big 12 championship game. Still a little bit to play out on who their matchup's going to be. Probably going to be TCU right now, but that could be a little bit of a mix-up that goes on there with that. Then we had Wisconsin. They stayed undefeated on the year. Classic Big Ten game. Really wasn't much explosive plays, just ground and pound, a few passing plays here and there. But Wisconsin was able to beat Michigan.
We had number 8, Notre Dame took on Navy. Classic matchup there. Notre Dame rebounded well after that loss they took to Miami last week. Nice comeback win in the second half over Navy.
Yeah, I was a little worried about this when we said, watch it. It could be a trap game for them. Navy runs that option. It's tough to defend that, especially on a short week and coming up off of a loss. But Notre Dame was able to do just enough to get that win. Did you see the uniforms that Notre Dame had on there with the throwback Rockneys?
Yeah, the throwback Rockneys with the old school leather helmet look.
Yeah, it was something new. I don't think I've ever seen that before. So that was kind of just a quick recap on some of the Week 12 games. Really some of the off-the-field stuff in football is drawing just as much of attention as the on-field, and that's the coaching carousel that's going on. Right now we've got the Tennessee position. It hasn't been filled yet. We had rumors coming out there that John Gruden was having some ribs with Peyton Manning down at Calhoun's.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, the restaurant actually had to release a statement saying it was a mistaken identity. They don't know who was actually there. So we'll have to see how that plays out. Florida, their fans were tracking a plane flight that left out of Gainesville and landed in New Hampshire. They said that there was a meeting there between Chip Kelly. Some are reporting that a contract was signed. Some are reporting that Chip Kelly may be interested in that UCLA job.
Yeah, with Jim Moore Jr. being out in UCLA, looks like Chip Kelly's name is tied to that job as well.
Yeah, and one name that kind of keeps coming up with the UT job, the Florida job, and the Nebraska opening, that's Scott Frost. You can't count him out. Young guy, really good recruiter, high-powered offense that he runs there at UCF. So we'll have to see if he ends up landing one of these positions. I'm kind of shocked. I did read something. I don't know if it's true, but they said Chip Kelly can't sign until next week because there's a $5 million payout that's coming from the 49ers. I haven't seen his contract, so no clue if that's actually true or not. But, some of these dominoes have to start falling now because recruiting, it's really going to be impacted by who comes in and fills these positions. Your school's kind of in the mix there. We didn't really think it was on there, but there's some reports coming out now that Jimbo may be getting some interest from the Texas A&M job if that opens up.
Yeah, it looks like Jimbo Fisher is linked to that Texas A&M job. I think that goes back to his days at LSU. I think that's just the athletic director there at Texas A&M. Worked with Jimbo at LSU when he was the offensive coordinator under Nick Saban. So looks like they've been friends for quite a few years, and now they are linking Jimbo to that job out in Texas. So it might happen.
Yeah, who knows if there's any truth behind it there. I know Texas A&M, they do have some deep pockets, so they may be able to throw a lot of money at him. But Jimbo is signed up through 2024 with a contract, so, it'd have to be a lot of money and a pretty long contract, I think, to get him to move.
Yeah, and I think one of his children has some type of rare disease or something. They're saying that he may want to stay in Florida, stay close to him. So that might be one of the reasons he stays there. So just have to wait and see.
Well, let's go ahead and get into it. It's rivalry week. I love this week in the college football season there. Let's just go ahead and jump into these games right away.
Hold up, Josh. No, you got to hold up. We got to give out these helmet stickers first, man.
All right. If we got to give out these helmet stickers before we talk about next week's games, I'm going to give mine out to a pair of wide receivers. The first one's going out to Trayvon Brown, wide receiver for Eastern Carolina. He was playing Cincinnati, not a huge game there, but 9 receptions, 270 yards, 2 touchdowns, 30 yards per reception on that. That's pretty impressive. It's getting it done. And then the other one's going out to Jordan Lasley, wide receiver for UCLA. This was in a tough loss to USC, but he had 10 receptions in that game, 204 yards, and 3 touchdowns. So, just an impressive output there from both wide receivers, really racking up some yards. How about you, Trav? Who do you got this week?
All right, man. I'm going to go ahead and give my first helmet sticker out to Brandon Wimbush, the quarterback from Notre Dame. Led Notre Dame to an impressive win over Navy. Brandon had 164 yards passing on 2 touchdowns, and he also ran for a touchdown. Big win there against Navy, big rivalry game there. So nice win for them.
Yeah, they got it done.
I'm going to give another helmet sticker out to my man Sam Darnold out in USC there. Big win over UCLA, crosstown rival there. They're going to keep that victory bell in Southern California.
Okay.
Could be Darnold's last game in the Coliseum.
Might be.
Maybe going in the draft there. So got to give him a helmet sticker for that big win over UCLA. And then, it wouldn't be a helmet sticker segment if I didn't give one to my man Saquon Barkley.
Oh, he's back. He's back this week.
So he's back on Heisman watch. He had 17 carries for 158 on 3 touches, and also had 66 yards receiving. So Saquon's back in the mix in the Heisman. He broke Penn State's career touchdown record with those 3 touchdowns as well. So I think he's putting his name back out in that Heisman watch.
That's pretty impressive. There's been some really good running backs there at Penn State over the years.
Definitely, man.
All right, now that we've given out those helmet stickers, can we get into these rivalry games this week?
Let's go ahead and get into these rivalry week games to watch in Week 13.
All right. We don't have to wait too long there. It starts out on Thanksgiving night at 7:30 on ESPN down in Mississippi. We've got Ole Miss taking on Mississippi State in the Egg Bowl.
The Egg Bowl.
This is Ole Miss isn't really in the running for anything there, but, they've come in and upset Mississippi State a couple times in that. Mississippi State, they're ranked 16th right now, a good chance to go to a good bowl. So this will be a big win for them.
Definitely. Our next matchup, it's not really a rivalry game, but it does have some playoff implications involved. You got number 3 Miami taking on Pittsburgh. This one's going to be played at Heinz Field there in Pittsburgh, so a little bit of cold weather Miami may have to deal with. You know, 12 o'clock game, still may be a little coolness in the air there. So we'll see how Miami responds to the weather change.
Yeah, I mean, that's a huge game for Miami. Let them finish out strong, puts them undefeated going into the ACC championship game. So all they got to do is take care of business, and things are shaping up good for them in the playoffs. Another one on Friday. It doesn't have probably as big of a national attention on it, but South Florida taking on UCF. UCF gets this win. They finish out the season undefeated. May be able to get into one of the big major bowls. We'll see how that plays out. Then we jump over to some of the more traditional rivalry games there on Saturday.
Moving over to Saturday, we got number 14 Washington State taking on number 18 Washington. They're going to be playing for the Apple Cup in that one.
That sounds delicious.
And then you got right after that one at 12 o'clock, you're going to have number 7 Georgia taking on Georgia Tech. So it looks like I think Georgia Tech won that meeting last year, 28-27. So it should be a good game.
Yeah, that would pretty much crush any chance that Georgia had of making the playoffs if they was to get upset in that game. Then a game I remember you used to watch quite a bit when you was a teenager, the Ohio State-Michigan game. You used to get up for that one. That was about second to your rivalry between Colorado and Nebraska back in the day.
Yeah, you had to like that Michigan-Ohio State game back in the day.
See what Ohio State can do. I believe they've already clinched their division there, so they'll be facing Wisconsin in the Big 12 or the Big 10 championship game. Then they jump into the Iron Bowl. This one's really set some of the national playoff implications multiple years. Who could forget the kick six when Auburn returned one against Alabama at the end of that game? Do you see an upset brewing here maybe with Auburn?
It's possible. I mean, both teams, definitely want this win. Auburn especially. Auburn a win here could put them in that SEC championship game.
They get in there, get a win against Georgia. Who knows? They may be able to get into the playoff. And then one game is not a rivalry, but it's Oklahoma taking on West Virginia. And that game's going to be in Norman. Oklahoma just has to take care of business, get that win. One other in-state rivalry is going to be Clemson taking on South Carolina.
Clemson definitely doesn't want to have a slip up there.
That's right. And then Notre Dame's taking on Stanford. This is going to be Notre Dame's last game of the season, no championship game for them. If they win this game, it's going to have them sitting there with 2 losses just on the outside. And we've said it in many a shows so far that the committee likes to get Notre Dame in when possible.
Looks like the college football playoff rankings are out. You got number 1, Alabama, holding strong. Miami sitting at number 2. Clemson at number 3. Oklahoma at number 4. So if it stayed this way, it would be a really nice playoff setting up right there.
Yeah, we're not going to see it stay this way. We've got Miami and Clemson playing each other, so I think the winner that when they battle it out there in the ACC championship is going to get one of the spots. And it really is going to come down to Wisconsin. Does Wisconsin win the Big Ten championship? If they're sitting there at 13-0, I don't think there's any way, even though their schedule is weak, extremely weak, I don't think there's any way that the committee can keep them out.
Yeah, you about have to let them get in. If they went out, I don't see any way they couldn't get in.
But if they do lose to Ohio State in that game, it's going to put Ohio State back in the mix, puts Notre Dame in the mix, puts Georgia in the mix if they get a win over Alabama or Auburn in the SEC championship game. So still definitely a lot to play out here in the playoff picture. It isn't over.
Definitely so. Yeah, Ohio State's going to need some help from some other teams, but you may see them jumping back up in there.
And Trav, one game that we didn't really cover there in the rivalry week, that's the Sunshine State Showdown. Doesn't probably mean as much. I don't have that big feeling about going into this game that I usually have, but it's your Florida State Seminoles taking on my Florida Gators.
Yeah, it's still a big game. Just for bragging rights basically, but definitely no implications as far as playoffs or whatnot, but just a big game. Big game for fans of both teams.
Yeah, I'd like to see a Gator victory, and then right after that game, they go ahead and announce that Chip Kelly's going to be the next head coach. I think that gives the Gators a big boost into 2018 with their recruiting. Get some of that momentum going, but they got to take care of it first on the field. But I don't know if they're going to be a favorite going into this game. defense is pretty good. Hopefully they can rattle that freshman quarterback and those Gators pull out a victory.
Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen in this one. I mean, the way both teams have been playing this year, we just have to wait and see on that.
Probably first team to 20 wins.
It's possible, yeah.
Well, let's go ahead and move out of college and get into some NFL action.
It's football. I've been watching it for 40 years. 40 years.
Week 11 is in the books. A good week of football there. Lots of good action on the field. I think the big story for me right now that's coming in is it was action on the field that we're talking about. We're really not talking about anything off the field, anything related to the national anthem. I think there is a little side story on that about maybe Trump wasn't happy about Marshawn Lynch, but it didn't get as much play in the press. Wasn't any huge injuries this week to talk about, so just a good week of on-the-field action.
Yeah, just good football action. Like you said, some top stories, some stuff. Dallas, I was looking at Dallas in that game they played. It looks like they're just definitely not moving in the right direction without Zeke in the backfield, without that big left tackle. So Dallas definitely not going in the right direction. What do you think about that?
Well, I think there is one huge reason that they're going in the wrong direction. That's because they were up against the Eagles. They met the force of the Eagles. 8 straight wins for them. If they don't have Dak against that defense of the Eagles, it makes them too one-dimensional. I don't think Dak's able to get it done in the passing game enough to beat the Eagles type defense. So I mean that's a huge win for the division for the Eagles. Moves them to 9-1. Has them looking really good. Right now, Vegas odd makers are putting the Eagles as the top lock for the Super Bowl. So that scares me.
Yeah, we'll just have to wait and see. I'm just not totally sold on the Eagles in the playoffs yet.
I mean, I like it kind of right now. I mean, the defense is getting healthy. We've got some guys back on that. They've added a lot of depth at running back. Offense is clicking on there. I mean, if any year, this is a good year for the Eagles. But, we've said it before. Us Eagle fans, we're skeptical when it comes to the playoffs. So hopefully nothing comes up there and they are able to make the Super Bowl this season. Now, one team that also is heading in the wrong direction was the Kansas City Chiefs. They've lost 4 out of the last 5 games. They suffered a bad loss this week to the New York Giants.
Yeah, pretty embarrassing loss. I mean, 12-9 against the Giants, coming off a loss to San Fran. So I'm not really sure what's going on with Kansas City. I'm not sure if the defensive coordinators have just kind of figured out that Andy Reid offense or what, but yeah, they're definitely not moving in the right direction right now. So they definitely need to turn it around before the playoffs get started, or if they want to get in the playoffs.
Seems to me with that offense there, they've got away with what was working early in the season. They're not getting the ball on the ground to Hunt, and they've turned Alex Smith back into a game manager instead of letting him go out there and make some plays. And then, in this game, they had a big trick play. They need to get away from those trick plays. I think Kelsey threw an interception, right when they was close to the goal line. Go ahead and get behind that big offensive line and run the ball a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, I saw him trying to work the ball to Hunt. It's just like, I don't know. He just wasn't really getting much going there, so not really sure what's going on in KC right now.
So how about this decision from a coach, Sean McDermott? You got Tyrod Taylor playing pretty good. I mean, he's not an MVP candidate type level or anything like that, but I mean, so far through the season, Tyrod hasn't played that bad at football. They bench him and put in the rookie Nathan Peterman. He goes out and throws 5 interceptions in that game, and then they had to put in Tyrod. Not a good coaching decision.
No, I'm not really sure what they're seeing in what's his name? Peterman. I'm not really sure what they're seeing in him. I just feel like Tyrod's proven himself in this league that he can win games. Not sure why they're killing his confidence by not starting him. So
yeah, you got to think that there's about 10 NFL teams out there right now that would love to have Tyrod Taylor on their team. So,
yeah,
I mean this is, I don't know. Maybe Nathan's looking pretty good in practice there, and coach always loved the backup quarterback. So I don't know. This was a bonehead mistake for him. Now, like we said there wasn't too many injuries this week. Was there a couple, though, that kind of caught your eye that need to watch?
Not really a lot of big injuries this week. A few that I did notice. Seattle Seahawks running back Mike Davis looks like he's out and unlikely to play Sunday with a groin injury. he has stated that he does want to play against his old team, the 49ers. So we'll just have to wait and see. He's probably going to just be day-to-day through the week here. Wide receiver for the Los Angeles Rams, Robert Woods, looks like he's out with a sprained left shoulder.
Out for a couple of weeks there. That's going to be a big loss for the Rams.
So Sammy Watkins is definitely going to need to step up with that injury with Woods there.
Yeah, the Saints, they lost Marshawn Lattimore in the last game. Maybe a concussion or banged up. There really wasn't too much details that came out of this, but he's been playing a really good shutdown corner for them, and that Saints defense is rolling right now.
Yeah, they definitely don't want to lose a good cornerback right now.
And then we've got one other guy I saw that's in the concussion protocol. Looks like Jay Cutler's going to be in that one. He wasn't able to finish the game last week.
Yeah, so that's probably 2 straight weeks for him, or 2 out of the last 3. Didn't he get knocked out against somebody there a couple of weeks ago on Thursday night?
Yeah, I believe Matt Moore had to make a start a couple of weeks ago, so not looking too good for Cutler coming back next week.
Yep, another injury I did see was Xavier Rhodes, cornerback for Minnesota Vikings. Looks like he missed practice yesterday with a hamstring injury, so he'll be day-to-day throughout the week. So with the way that Minnesota defense is playing, they definitely don't want to lose him.
No, not at all. Spoke about some high-powered teams there. Let's see if there was any change in our power rankings for this week.
Make the ground shake.
All right, Trav. Who's your top 5 this week?
All right, NFL power rankings after week 11. At number 5, I've got the Pittsburgh Steelers. They've won 5 straight. They're sitting at 8-2. They do have some early season wins over the Vikings and the Chiefs. Even though they did lose to the Jaguars and the Bears, I've still got them sitting at number 5. They're playing really well right now. The offense is getting going, and they're still playing good D.
Okay.
Number 4, I've got the Saints, winners of 8 straight. Good win this week over the Redskins. They're winning without Drew Brees. Also, I mean, he's not, they're used to winning when he's throwing for 300 or so, but they're winning right now behind their rushing game, Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara right now. So they're playing really well. At number 3, I've got the Vikings sitting at 8-2. They just came off a dominating win over the Rams, held that high-scoring Rams offense to 7 points. So got them sitting at number 3. At number 2, still got the Patriots behind Brady. As long as they've got that guy Brady, I'm going to have them, right there as long as they're still playing good. Him and Belichick just keep finding ways to win.
Definitely.
Gronk, Amendola starting to get it going, even getting some run game going out of Deion Lewis. So got them sitting at number 2. Number 1, I got the Eagles still sitting at 9-1. You're happy about that. Y'all are playing good ball right now. Just coming off a big win over Dallas Sunday night, 37-9. Wentz playing really good, looking elusive in the pocket, doing his best Russell Wilson impersonation there. So they're looking good. So Steelers, Saints, Vikings, Patriots, and Eagles. What's your power ranking looking like for week 11?
Well, I had a feeling there after that we was going to have the same teams in there. After week 11, we've got 5 teams that have really, kind of distinguished themselves as the cream of the crop. I've got a little different order there. I got the Saints in at number 5. They are on an 8-game winning streak, but they don't really have that big marquee win this season. Their division is a little bit weaker. They played some weaker teams in their schedule. But, you got to give them credit for their on-the-field performance. So 8 wins in a row, that's not easy to do in this league.
Okay.
Number 4, I've got the Vikings. You mentioned it there. That's a huge win over the Rams. Rams was in my top 5 last week, but the Vikings defense came out and took care of business. We keep saying each week they have quarterback issues there. Is it going to be Bradford? Is it going to be Bridgewater? Case Keenum comes out each week right now and is just holding down the shop on that. He's getting good performance out of his wide receivers. So, the Vikings, huge win for them. Put them at number 4. Number 3, Steelers. They keep getting it done. 5-game winning streak. They got AB involved there on Thursday night. 3 touchdowns. It's a huge game for him. Anytime AB's touching the ball and Bell's touching the ball, that offense is going to be hard to do anything with. And then number 2, I've got the Patriots. They're sitting there in the AFC East. Atop of it, they went down to Mexico, took care of the Raiders, wasn't even challenged in that game. This defense, they look slow in the first 5 or 6 games. They had some big injuries, but it's coming around now. Their cornerbacks are playing good. Linebackers, they picked up a couple players, filled in those gaps. Belichick, somehow he's able to do that. He finds somebody off the practice squad on another team and fills in any of his gaps. He's definitely the best in the league at doing that in their front office. And then at number 1, it's the Eagles. Their 8-game winning streak, 9-1 on the season. My 1 and 2 right now, if I had to, put it on papers, put it on audio and say it, I think that's going to be the Super Bowl matchup, Eagles versus Patriots again. Good news on that. We don't have
You're making an early season. You making this prediction for your Super Bowl already right here?
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'll say the Eagles win that game because we don't have McNabb out there puking all over the place.
Okay. We just have to wait and see on that one.
Yeah, so that's my top 5. Number 5, Saints. 4, Vikings. 3, Steelers. Number 2, Patriots. And atop the list, the Eagles.
Okay. Anybody on the outside looking in?
Well, the Rams, I would have them on the outside looking in there. The Jaguars, they're 7-3. They would probably be the 2 teams I'd have right now on the outside looking in. How about you?
I got Carolina right there on the outside looking in at 7-3. I mean, we know what kind of team they are. We know who makes them go. They're going to go behind Cam Newton. So sitting at 7-3, they're right there. I think, they get into playoffs, they could make some noise, be a tough out there. Another team, it's kind of a quiet 7-3, the Jacksonville Jaguars. So not a lot of quality wins for them, but they are 4-1 on the road. Their defense is starting to play pretty good. So
solid defense.
You never know. Not saying they can go deep in the playoffs, but they are right there on the outside looking in at 7-3.
Yeah, I mean, with Houston banged up right now, Tennessee, they're on and off each week. I think it's the Jaguars' division to win right now.
Definitely. So, I mean, they definitely could take that division.
Well, we talked about on Thursday there's going to be that college football game with Ole Miss taking on Mississippi State, the Egg Bowl. But there's 3 games from the NFL as well, so plenty of football action is going to be on the plate for Thursday. I think the first game of the day there at 12:30 is going to be the biggest game of it, Minnesota taking on Detroit.
Yeah, it's a big game for Minnesota. They definitely don't want to let down against their in-conference rival there, Detroit. So it is on the road. So, but Minnesota's defense does travel, so I don't think they'll have any trouble with Detroit there.
This was one thing I heard the other day. I think it was yesterday. Los Angeles, they're sitting there at 4-6 on the season. Somebody said that they're the team in the AFC that could be making a playoff run right now. It's got to get started on the middle game there with Los Angeles taking on Dallas. Los Angeles gets a little bit of break with Zeke out on that one. Could the Chargers turn it around? They've had a lot of tough losses this season by 2 and 3 points.
I mean, that's just kind of the story of the Chargers. I mean, they're kind of a mediocre team throughout the whole season. And, they try to make a run late. It's kind of toss-up in this one, Los Angeles Chargers versus Dallas without Dak or without Zeke. So we'll just have to wait and see on that one.
Yeah, and then that last game is going to be New York playing Washington. 2 teams that if they're playing, I do not want to be watching it. So I'll go ahead and flip over there and definitely be watching that college football game. Any other games taking place on Sunday that caught your eye?
Definitely, the Miami-New England game, is a game to always watch. Miami is known to upset New England, so that could be an upset brewing there, even though it is in Foxborough. Definitely be keeping an eye on that one. You've got Seattle at San Fran just because, of course, my squad, San Fran, just want to see how they respond after the bye week against Seattle and Russell there. Saints and Rams, definitely a big game for both teams. Rams trying to rebound after their loss they took. Saints trying to keep their win streak alive. Yeah,
that's the game that I want to watch. Saints offense is explosive right now. They're getting it done, like you said, on the ground. Story the Saints used to be Drew Brees had to throw for 400 yards each game. He's not having to do that now. Ingram and Kamara both are getting it done on the ground. Kamara's a nice change of pace back there, receiving and rushing. So Saints, high-powered offense, good defense. Man, that's a good combination there. And there's some other games this week that have some playoff implications. Jacksonville taking on Arizona, Green Bay at Pittsburgh. We'll see how that plays out. Monday night game is going to be Houston versus Baltimore. I don't know if I'm crazy about that Monday night matchup.
Yeah, two mediocre teams. Not really much going on in that game.
So, yeah, now, I mean, this is the part of the season pretty much every game counts. I mean, not that any of the games don't count, but, really this is crunch time if you're wanting to make the playoff run. So, exciting time in football. But even more exciting, we get to talk about a little bit more baseball, Trav. I know you love that.
Oh, yeah. All right, Josh, so here's your chance. Major League Baseball end of season awards. You want to go ahead and give those out?
Yeah, but they've already voted on everything. Really not too much of a surprise. Jose Altuve coming off of the World Series championship. Go ahead and give you a little bit of credit. I think I took the Dodgers winning that one in 7. You said that the Astros were going to take care of that series. We went 7 games, but Astros pulled it off there. We were on vacation, so we really didn't get to talk too much about the World Series, but that was a big win for the Astros. And then, the NL MVP, I think it was a little bit more questionable. Stanton, he won that one. Joey Votto, he finished second, but the vote total there was 302 to 300, so a really tight race. Kind of what shocked me was one of the voters there gave Chris Bryant one first-place vote. I don't see how anybody could have thought Chris Bryant was your leading MVP candidate for this year. He won it last year and had a whole lot better stats. Plus, the Cubs were a much better team there last year. You think there's any controversy around there with Votto not winning the MVP?
No, I think Stanton had a great year. I mean, I think he was the first Marlins player to win the MVP, wasn't he?
He was. He put up some big numbers. I mean, close to 60 home runs, 59 home runs on the year. I think it was good. I like Votto's approach to the games there, so I'm a little biased on my opinion there with that. But you can't take anything away from Stanton's season. Cy Young race there, it really wasn't that close.
Yeah, the NL Cy Young that went to Max Scherzer, and then you had the AL Cy Young went to Corey Kluber from the Indians.
Yeah, both of them just kind of pulled away on that one. You had Clayton Kershaw finishing second and Chris Sale finishing second in the AL. But, it wasn't a close race at all. I don't think there was any surprise for the rookies of the year in either league. Aaron Judge, he won it for the AL. He received all the first-place votes. And then Cody Bellinger, he also got all the first-place votes in the NL. A name from the past there, I know you remember this name, Paul Molitor. He was manager of the year for the Twins.
Okay.
And then Torey Lovullo, he took it home for the NL, leading the Diamondbacks with a late rush on the end of the season there. They had that long winning streak. So, yeah, Trav, that might be the last time we have to talk about baseball until the catchers and pitchers report for spring training.
Yeah, when's that, next week?
Not quite. I think that's in February. All right, Trav, Boston keeps getting it done in the NBA. They're on a 16-game winning streak right now.
Yeah, Boston is – I mean, they're looking right now. They're the team to beat in the East, so I think they're going for Cleveland this year. Yeah, they're sitting at 16-2 atop the Eastern Conference there. Surprised at who's number 2 and number 3. It looks like the Pistons in that second spot and Toronto Raptors. A team that we talked about last week that was off to a slow start there. Cleveland's moved up a little bit on a little bit of a winning streak there. They're at 9-7. Finally back in the playoff picture for the East. Yep, Cleveland. So, I mean, you expected that. Like I said last week, I think they're just still starting to gel a little bit. They're starting to play a little better. So, we'll see Cleveland moving up, I think, throughout the season here. Now, the West, that's really exciting. I was watching a game last week there with Houston taking on Phoenix Suns. Houston caught fire in that first half and ended up scoring 90 points by halftime. James Harden was going crazy. Yeah, it's crazy. 90 points in the first half. That's ridiculous. Yeah, I mean, on pace to do 180. They didn't quite get there. I think they got to about 140, 145. But really, offensive production is up this year. What's it coming from, Trav? Is it the rules in place or just the three ball? Yeah, just no defense. No defense at all. The rules right now, it makes it hard to play defense. I mean, you can't hand check. The floor's so wide open. And, I mean, these guys are shooting threes and making a lot of them too. Yeah, it's early in the season. These guys are playing 82 games, so it's not a lot of defense being played right now. Unless it's just a real big, unless it's just somebody they don't want to be shown up by. So just not a lot of D. So obviously that's being shown there with 90 points in the first half.
Yeah, and the 76ers, they went a little crazy there in the game against Golden State. They got out to 47 points in the first quarter of that game, but they somehow managed to lose that game. Golden State got hot in the second half. Steph Curry got hot in the third quarter, and Golden State was able to pull that one out. Young team in Philadelphia. They probably got to go through some of this and learn, but you think if you got out to a hot start like that, you'd be able to hold on and win the game.
Yeah, like you said, just a young team, just not knowing how to finish. So, like you said, just young, but they do have some talent on that team, and they're sitting at 8-7 right now. So you may see some more out of them throughout the rest of the year here.
Well, the NBA isn't the only basketball action that's going on right now. College basketball's tipped off as well. We had a huge matchup there with number 1 and number 2, Duke, Michigan State, in the championship classic. Did you get to watch any of that game?
Yeah, I saw a little bit of it. Grayson Allen, he hasn't started tripping yet.
No, he actually kept everything in check there. Had a good offensive output in that game. They were able to get the win in that one, 88-81 over Michigan State. Michigan State, they're a good team, but they're a little banged up right now. I've seen 2 of their players are banged up. Miles Bridges, one of their top players, if not their top player, he's day-to-day with an ankle injury, and they have another guy that may be out 2 to 4 weeks. So that could get them off to a little bit slower start on the season. But in college basketball, that's not the only big injury that's going on there. Top recruit coming into this year, Michael Porter Jr., looks like he's going to be out for the season.
Yeah, I saw that. Hurt his back or something, didn't he?
Yeah, he hurt his back. He actually had back surgery today. So this is going to be one of those scenarios. He's only played 2 minutes of college basketball, but he was projected as a top 5 draft pick next season. Just about everybody. I think it was Kyrie did this as well. Maybe we saw Kyrie in 1 or 2 games at Duke, and then he had a knee injury, went to the NBA, was the number 1 pick there. With this type of injury, does he go ahead and head to the NBA, or we had to come back next year and play?
I'm not sure if he's on the level of Kyrie, so we may be seeing this guy again next year. I think I'm not sure how much he's proven himself yet. So I'm pretty sure we'll probably see this guy back again. Right.
Now, one guy that we definitely going to see back week to week. You gave kind of this story a big dummy of the week last week. LaAngelo Ball, got into the trouble there with some of the other UCLA players. Thought this one might die down, but once the players got back to the States, kind of the drama just picked up on this one, didn't it?
Yeah, this story's still getting some pub because you've still got LeVar in the news. I think he was on CNN last night responding to some comments that the president made on Twitter again. So you got that clip?
Yeah, I got a couple clips from that.
So if the president invited you to the White House, would you say thank you then?
Heck yeah, if he invited me to the White House, I would thank him for inviting me to the White House.
Would you thank him for getting your son out of China?
If I to your house, I say thank you for getting me to your house. That's like how polite I am towards people.
But
if you invite me somewhere and you do something nice to me, I'm going to say thank you.
I think you've made this way more difficult than you needed to.
Thank you kindly, sir.
I think you've made this more difficult than you needed to, and you wound up provoking the president of the United States.
You know what? You making this more difficult. LeVar didn't say thank you to the president.
You didn't.
So that makes me a bad person?
No, I'm just saying you didn't thank him.
Just swim on this?
And it doesn't make any sense why you won't thank him.
Did you thank the doctor for bringing you into this world?
It didn't stop there. I think they had a little bit of a exchange on the end of the interview as well.
The best to you and your family for Thanksgiving, the best to your boys, and the best to your wife as well, okay?
Hey, you have a great Thanksgiving. Hey, and I got a message for you.
What is it?
Tell Donald Trump to have a great Thanksgiving, because Big Baller is.
So in this interview, and the clip that we played, he said that he provoked the president. But, I mean, isn't that really what LeVar was wanting to do? He knew he could provoke the president and keeping that Big Baller brand in the news stream.
Yeah, he knows President Trump loves Twitter, so he knew he could get a response out of him.
So this is really one of those situations where just keeping yourself in the news, whether it's good news, bad publicity, it doesn't set you in the best light. That looks to be what LeVar's strategy is. It's just, keep my name, keep my boy's name in the news.
Yeah, I mean that's really what he's all about, is building his brand and his family's brand. But at the same time, he's got to realize that everything he's out here saying is affecting his son in the NBA, his son that's in college, his son that's still being homeschooled. So I mean, he's just putting a lot of extra pressure, I believe, on Lonzo, number one, playing for the Lakers. And he's still, he's out here talking, and he's still talking about the coaching staff, I think, for the Lakers as well, too, saying that they're kind of soft and not really pushing the players enough. But that's just his style. So, I mean, we might as well get used to it.
Yeah, in 10 years, we're either going to say this guy's an idiot or this guy's a complete genius. Love him or hate him, he's got his style. I think he's got a plan. I don't think he's just shooting from the hip on all this. Yeah, was the plan for LaAngelo to come back to the States? He's going to make the publicity, take some of the the heat away from him for the shoplifting. We're really not talking about that. We're talking about the Twitter feud that they're having there between LeVar and Trump. So I don't know. He may be a genius. He just really may be a genius. We don't know. I think there's a segment that we come up with that we have some guys that definitely aren't geniuses. Trav, you've got some big dummies for this week?
Yeah, I think we got one.
Dummy. You big dummy. You big dummy. You big dummy. You big cold-blooded dummy. You big dummy. See what you did? Oh, no, you big dummy. Oh, no, you big dummy.
All right, so our big dummy for the week this week is going to be Baker Mayfield. He played this weekend against Kansas. So it all started during the handshake, or the handshake that didn't happen, where some of the Kansas captains didn't want to shake his hand.
Yeah, definitely not a classy move on their part.
So Baker kind of took offense to that. This kind of spilled over into the game, where there were cameras on Baker on the sideline, where he's kind of ranting up and down the sideline. So there were some cameras that caught Baker on the sideline spouting a few expletives towards the Kansas sideline, as well as making a few Michael Jackson moves.
That's right, yeah. If he was a lip reader, you had some interesting language coming out of his mouth.
Yeah, a few grabs here and there, some areas. So, definitely not something you want to do, Baker, being one of the top Heisman candidates. So now he's not starting this week. He had his captain title stripped, so he's going to come off the bench. Hopefully he'll get in the game, and hopefully it won't hurt his stats, So, like I said, not really a smart move when you're in the lead for the Heisman, Baker. So we got to go ahead and hit you with it.
You big dummy.
All right, well, that's about going to do it for this week. But we may have some big announcement coming out for the next show, so definitely stay tuned on that.
Yeah, another big interview possibly coming up, Josh. So all of our listeners out there definitely want to be staying tuned for that, listening out for it when it comes up.
Yeah, and definitely. And one thing that you could do just to help us out, I know we ask it off and on, but go ahead to your favorite podcast listening platform, whether it's iTunes or any other app, and hit the subscribe button on that. It really helps us out with our downloads on that. And, if you feel so inclined, leave us a review, whether it's a 1-star. Hope you don't do that. But go ahead and leave us one of those 5-star reviews, and that's going to be a big boost for us as some of our positioning on iTunes.
All right, Josh, so that about wraps up another episode. Let's go ahead and get out of here.
Thanks for listening, and if you enjoyed the show, please help us out with a subscribe on your favorite platform. To find all listening services and social media accounts, check out our website, ifitsports.com. Select the Listen to Podcast link from the top menu.
The If It Sports hotline is open 24/7. Just leave us a voicemail with your contact information at 276-415-0029. We'll be sure to get back with you on information how you can be a guest on our show. And remember, if it's sports,
we're talking about it.